Welcome back, Only Playbook fans. We are back. Shovit and I are here, and this has been the episode that I have been talking about for months, Shovit. I have been glitzing and glamming and just giddy as hell about talking about the wide receiver class for 2024 because, my goodness, is it an absolutely stacked class. And everything we've talked about off camera makes it seem like you feel the same way. And I think what we're going to talk about, and it's going to be a recurring theme, is how goddamn difficult it was to narrow this group down to a top 10. So how are you doing, man? How was all the wide receiver tape you had to watch?
Dude, it was so fun. It was exciting to watching all of it. And I watched a lot of like Steve Smith's analysis on this and a couple of
He's a
other
good
guys.
one to watch.
He's a good one to watch. Yeah. And so it was really cool getting that insight from a wide receiver perspective, but there's so many good players. And you're right, man. Like the bottom 5 of that top 10 list, that was just so hard. I kept switching around and going through the guys and changing it up. But, I think there's a lot of promise. And if the Steelers, I'm looking at it in a Steelers point of view, and if they're going to target a receiver in the second round, there's some good options for sure.
Dude, any team that is going into this season needing wide receivers, the draft, I mean, this draft could not have come at a better time for these folks, right? I mean, it's incredible how late the talent is, how in the middle of the draft there's talented, and then the top of the class is just elite level wide receivers. So I know we're going to talk about all of that. One thing I wanted to headline is before we get into the top 10, I would not be surprised of it. So I was doing just kind of backtracking on history of receiving classes. And we talked about obviously the 2020 draft class being one of the really, really, really good receiving classes, right? And I just want to read off who the receivers were and in what position and order they went, because this is going to headline my biggest findings about this receiving classes. I think truly maybe outside of the top 3, which I could still see somebody random coming into the top 3 in terms of production when it's all said and done. But maybe outside the top 3, I would not be surprised if in like 6-7 years we look back and the number 9, number 10, number 11, or guys we didn't even rank in our top 10 end up being Pro Bowlers, end up having 1,000-yard seasons. Like there's so much potential there. And then I started doing digging, going back and being like, in a really deep receiving class, like are the first guys off the board usually the home run hitters, and then it's all crapshoot. It's tough. It's kind of a mixed bag, but the most recent trend is 2020 where, you had a bunch of receivers go in the first round. And I just want to read off who they were and in what order they went. So it gives you an idea of like what receivers went when and who ended up actually producing what we expected them to.
This is the one with Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb.
Yes, this is the one with Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb. The number 1 receiver off the board was Henry Ruggs at number 12 to the Raiders.
Yeah.
Poor Henry Ruggs. Then after that was CeeDee Lamb to the Cowboys at 17, which was an absolute hit. No, I'm sorry. Before that was Jerry Jeudy to the Broncos at 15. So Ruggs at 12, Jeudy to the Broncos at 15. Neither guy has been a Pro Bowler, all pro, nothing, right? Then you have 17. The Cowboys get CeeDee Lamb. So the third receiver off the board to this day is probably out of the top 3, the best. But you have the 4th receiver off the board, Jalen Reagor, who is absolutely awful. And the 5th receiver is the one and only Justin Jefferson. So 3 and 5 ended up 5 right now is the best receiver in all of football. 3 is probably top 3. You have the first one who's not even in the NFL, the second one who's already been traded, and then the third one the 4th one who also is another rando. And then right after Justin Jefferson, you have Brandon Ayuk, who is another stud, who was wide receiver 6 in that class, man. The 6th wide receiver in that class. Some other guys, wide receiver 7, Shovit, T. Mofo Higgins, wide receiver 8, Michael Mofo Pittman Jr., wide receiver 9, Laviska Shenault, wide receiver 10, KJ Hamler, and I just wanted to throw in the wide receiver 11, RIP Chase Claypool. So,
hey, Claypool hit, but then he declined, but he did kind of like that first year or so, he was relevant until they figured him out.
Yeah, I mean, to be wide receiver 11 and to at least have an impact early, I would definitely say he beat his ADP in the actual draft. But man, that was so short-lived. And I mean, now I don't even know if he's going to play a snap in the NFL ever again. So
probably not.
That's it. That's the testament that I wanted to show you, man. 11 receivers that I just talked about, 3, 6, I think 8 and 9 ended up being like the best receivers. So it's truly a crapshoot. Which again leads us into, let's talk about the top 10. I want to do you have anybody maybe outside of your top 10 that you were like, maybe I should bring this guy up?
Corley. Malachi Corley. I do like him. I think his speed and his yak ability is really nice and sought out after. I just don't know if you draft him early on just because his slot abilities are he's a little bit of a smaller stature in a guy, so in a receiver. But I like his playmaking abilities. So he's a guy I feel like could be somewhat like a Deebo Samuel almost, right?
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, that's the biggest comp I think that he gets. He's a little shorter than Deebo, but like he's built that kind of that stocky way. And that's the thing. He's not like a polished route runner, but he's a Swiss Army knife. They will run end arounds. They hand the ball up to him. They pitch it to him. And so in an NFL era where, talent and, what you can do, they'll find a position for you, right? If you're talented, they'll find a position for you. And I wouldn't be surprised if Malachi Corley ends up being a Cordero Patterson, a Deebo Samuel Light. So I like that you brought him up because I really liked his play style. I just feel like just because he's not a true receiver and he doesn't run great routes, what he can do on the football field can translate to the NFL.
Right.
No, that's a good one. I mean, if you follow us on TikTok, I had posted a top 10 rankings on TikTok where I talked about 20 receivers and there were a bunch of guys that didn't even make the top 10. But really nice names like Xavier Worthy, who ran the 4.21 that everybody's freaking out about, not even in my top 10, right? We knew he was fast and he just kind of proved it. So he's one guy that's not in my top 10. You brought this guy off the camera, Brandon Rice, Jerry Rice's son, another guy that, doesn't have elite athleticism or athletic traits, but Jerry Rice didn't have any of that, and he was one of the best receivers of all time. So you just with the name alone leads you to believe that there might be something there. And he's been a good football player for Caleb Williams as a receiver, absolutely. So that's another guy. Luke McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey's brother. I think he'll go like 4th, 5th, maybe even 6th round. He's going to be a later guy, but could really latch onto a team and be the serviceable 3 or 4. And then Jalen Polk. Jalen Polk was another guy that I absolutely loved from Washington, but what we talked about is when you're ranking a top 10, it's so hard to knock off somebody who has supreme athletic skills, athletic traits, and they were produced in college over a guy that maybe produced a lot more than this guy, but their athletic traits are kind of plateaued. Like they're not exceptional in anything. So you feel like that's just what's going to translate to the NFL. So Jalen Polk to me is like a Tyler Lockett-esque where he's going to be awesome. He's going to be an awesome, possession guy. He's going to get open. He knows how to find the soft spot in the zone, but he's not the biggest. He's not the fastest and he's not the tallest, right? So he gets overshadowed by Rome Odunze, even on his own team. But a lot of these other receivers, just because the athletic traits of the receivers coming out this year are just so ridiculous, just absolutely ridiculous. And in other years, I feel like these guys that we're talking about would be a top 10 receiver in the draft class, but this year, certainly not. So those are the guys that I wanted to highlight. Shovit, I'm going to have you run through your 10 through 5, and then I'm going to run through my 10 through 5. And then I'm going to have you talk about who you want to talk about. I'll talk about who I want to talk about, and then we'll do 5 through 1 and talk about the best of the best.
All right. Sounds good. All right. So let me go ahead and get things started. Number 10, I've got Ricky Pearsall from Florida. Number 9, I have Troy Franklin from Oregon. Number 8, I have Ladd McConkey from Georgia. Number 7, I have Michigan star Roman Wilson. Number 6, I like this guy a lot, Xavier Legette. Number 5, I've got Adonai Mitchell, AD from Texas. Number 5, I have Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. Number 4, I've got Rome Odunze from Washington. I
think you said number 5 twice. Don't you have Rome number 3, I'm assuming?
Sorry, Rome is number 4. Rome Odunze is number
4. Rome's number 4? No, he's not.
3. Rome.
Yeah, I was going to say Rome.
Brian Thomas
You said
Jr.
5 twice. You said 5 twice.
Okay, gotcha. My bad. Number 5 is Adonai Mitchell. Number 4 is Brian Thomas Jr. from LSU. Number 3 is Rome Odunze from Washington. Number 2 is Malik Neighbors, LSU. And number 1 is Marvin Harrison Jr. from Ohio State University.
All right, perfect. So I like your top 10. Let me give you my top 10 real quick, and then we will start debating who we want to talk about. Number 10, your boy, Xavier Legette out of South Carolina. Number 9, Roman Wilson, Michigan. Number 8, Speedy Troy Franklin out of Oregon. Number 7, one guy that was not in your top 10 that we'll have to talk about, Keon Coleman out of Florida State. Number 6, Ricky Pearsall, Slick Rick out of Florida. Number 5, I have 2 guys tied for number 5, Ladd McConkey from Georgia and AD Mitchell from Texas. Number 4, Brian Thomas Jr., LSU. Number 3, Rome Odunze, Washington. Number 2, Marvin Harrison Jr. And number 1 for me this year, without a doubt. I mean, for as crazy as how consensus the rest of the world is on Marvin Harrison, I have not had a doubt in my mind that I think Malik Neighbors is a superior prospect. So Malik Neighbors to me is number 1 in terms of wide receivers. We'll talk obviously about Malik Neighbors, but I want you, because I have Legette at 10, you have Legette at 6. Talk to me about Xavier Legette.
Dude, Xavier Legette, dude, this guy is 6'1", 221 pounds, but has exceptional speed, 4.39, can get past defenders, is a great deep threat. His comp to me is sort of like DK Metcalf. And so one of his knock may be like not able to, route run and having a lot of abilities on the route running tree. So that might be his knock. But I think that if he can get to that point where he is able to route run, he is able to create separation. I think that he's going to be explosive. One of like a receiver that you can be like, you're getting a receiver that can be a wide receiver one that plays outside for you in the long run. So Xavier Legette's, I think his potential is really high, given that he works on his route running abilities a little bit more.
Yeah, the comp is pristine. That's exactly who I comped him to. DK Metcalf. His straight line speed's insane. He ran a 4.39 and he's got a 40-inch vertical. So the dude is an athletic freak, which again is a revolving door of theme with the receivers this year. But contested catch monster, size speed combination is absolutely insane, right? 50-50 balls, dude, you throw this guy up the ball, he's going to get it. Like you said, the only knock on him is he's not a polished route runner. And I don't know that he'll ever run a full route tree, kind of similar to DK Metcalf. But DK Metcalf can get away with it because he's fast as fuck, he's strong as hell, and he's able to jump up and catch 50-50 balls. Xavier Legette's like full form transformation would be DK Metcalf, and that would be an awesome player that any team would be absolutely lucky to have. Now, my only thing with Xavier Legette is I do think he can actually develop into a better route runner than DK Metcalf, simply because I think his quickness and his short like burst is a little bit better than DK's. DK seems a little bit stiffer, like he's much more upright to me. And I don't think DK's taller than 6'1", right? I feel like DK's a little bit taller than
6'3", 6'4".
Yeah, he's a little bit taller for sure. So that's why I think Legette can transition into being able to run awesome routes. And if he can, bro, to think that I have this guy ranked 10th, and like if the Vikings got him in the second round, I would think we got like a home run. I would think we got an absolute home run. So it just is a testament to how deep this class is. You had this guy number 6. I had him number 10. But I agree. I think he's a heck of a football player, and I'm excited to see what he can do in the NFL.
Yeah, I mean, just think about George Pickens and Legette, like wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. Man, that would be some scary.
That'd be 2 alphas, dog. I mean, who are you gonna cover?
I mean, hey, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, like, you pick your poison. All right, so then the next guy I want to talk about is Roman Wilson. So when I was watching his tape, man, he comes off as just like a smart receiver. He's super fast. It seems like he has like one speed, and it's just fast. And he's smart in the sense that in zone coverage, I saw him. There was plays that JJ McCarthy had to kind of evade the pocket, and he finds the right spots in that zone coverage. So guys that are trying to run around, you look for a guy like Roman Wilson downfield, and chances are he's probably going to be open. So I like that about him. I like his speed, so speed, route running abilities, and being a smart receiver. I thought those 3 things are going to translate really well into the NFL. So getting a guy like this in the second day 2, second round of the draft, I think would be a steal.
Yeah, I mean, my favorite thing about Roman Wilson is his short burst and his quickness is insane. He ran a 6.2 flat 3-cone drill, which I think is like the 99th percentile. So he is he's incredible inside the numbers. And like you said, Shovit, if a quarterback has to get out of the pocket or evade pressure and he needs to find somebody, there's not going to be a guy that's going to be better at, running around and trying to find something than Roman Wilson, because he knows exactly where to be. He's got really, really good hands. They improved vastly as his collegiate career went on. And again, he's got explosive speed, 4.39 speed, which you wouldn't think that, but he's got 4.39 speed, so he can take the top off you if he needs to. So he's a little bit smaller. That's the only thing you look at and you're like, okay, stature, maybe not a true X on the outside, but dude, who cares? He's a playmaker. He can get open, he can catch the football, and he's fast. You got to love it. And I think, side note, one thing you highlighted when you were looking at Roman Wilson highlights was how much JJ McCarthy was standing out.
Yeah. I know. I was watching this highlight. I was like, this is the JJ McCarthy highlight more than a Roman Wilson, because those dots and the accuracy, I mean, obviously they're highlights, but man, the potential with JJ, like I'm kind of bought in on this JJ train. Like, I think he could be something special.
I know, man. I just don't know if too much time has elapsed since the end of the season, and we just have so much time to like stew in our thoughts, get certain different perspectives, and that continues to change things. Or if it in fact is true that like he's climbing the boards, and rightfully so. It's hard to say rightfully so when the dude hasn't thrown a pass yet, and he went from like second round quarterback to top 3, now saying he could go 2 to the Commanders. I mean, we've heard this, right? We've heard Will Levis do this in the past, Malik Willis. Sometimes it's smoke, sometimes it's not, but I'm with you. I love JJ McCarthy's tape. I think he can be a stud. I just think he's going to take a little bit longer of time to develop, and having guys like Roman Wilson will definitely help him in the NFL when he's going to find a lot more Roman Wilsons running around. So Roman Wilson for you was number, what did you have Roman Wilson at?
I had him at 7.
No? Okay, so he was my number 9 receiver. Yeah. So I have Legette 10, Roman Wilson 9. I want to talk about Ricky Pearsall. Ricky Pearsall was number 6 on my board. I think he's 6'10" for you. Out of Florida, Slick Rick, 6'1", 190. Dude, he's another athletically gifted freak. 4'4", 140. He's got a 42-inch vertical, man. He's white. Did I mention he's white? Yeah. He's got a 42-inch vertical. He's running a 4.41 with a 42-inch vertical. I mean, if you watch Ricky Pearsall highlights, the one that's always going to come up, the very first one is the one where he's over the middle and he one-hands it like this, the football. And it's like the thing me and Shishot used to practice doing when we were little and be like, try to catch it like this. And he actually does that in a real game. So that's incredible. But not just that, man. I think Ricky Pearsall has really, really soft hands. Like, I think it reminds me of a catcher having a mitt and a ball hitting it. And it's just like when certain catchers catch the ball, it's just like they receive the ball so perfectly, right? It's not stiff. And that's how Ricky Pearsall catches the football in my mind. That's what it reminds me of. And I think intelligence is what wins for Ricky Pearsall. He's not the best route runner, but he's an absolutely intelligent route runner. He's able to set up defenders based on head fakes, based on shoulder fakes. So what I think he lacks in is that true polish, but he makes up for it with being intelligent, being like, maybe I don't have the quickness to beat you, but I have the intelligence to beat you. And I think that's what I love most about Ricky Pearsall. He has a little bit of, I don't know, like it's not the quickest twitch. So again, if you're looking for a guy that's going to play in the slot all the time and break in and out, it doesn't feel super quick and crisp like Roman Wilson, like Cooper Kupp and those guys do. But the athletic profile is what really stands out for him. And the fact that he can run that fast, he can jump that high, and his hands are incredibly soft. There's going to be a place for you in the NFL, my man.
Yeah, he's number 10 on my list, and he's probably going to be one of those slot guys. And it's so easy to make the comparison with, like, I don't know, Edelman or Amendola just because he's white. But that's kind of what I feel like he can be. I do like Ricky Pearsall a lot. The ability to catch the ball is definitely there. And I saw him. I saw a video where he was training with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So yeah, he's practicing his quickness. And so these guys that we talk about, their prospects, they're like, not all of them are like ready for NFL, but they're going to be, you know, not day one starters, but maybe year 2, year 3. And so I think that he if he can work on his quick feet and work with Tyreek Hill more often, then, you know, I think that this guy could be something special from a slot receiver perspective.
Yeah, I agree. 6'1", 190. He's again, he's got the size, he's got the frame, he's athletically gifted. And you love to see that. It's something you can't teach, and it's hard to quantify, or it's hard to use that as a benefit or a slight. But not every other receiver in this draft class is going out and finding Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and being like, hey, let's go train together, right? You have to want to do that, which means you're trying to get better, which means you're going to the NFL knowing that you want to be amongst the best. So I think that already is a step in the right direction with the work ethic and everything else. This guy was catching bombs from Anthony Richardson the year prior. So again, I think Ricky Pearsall is going to be a really good football player in the NFL. The second guy I want to talk about, Shovit, and I want to talk about him because he wasn't even in your top 10, is Keon Coleman, Florida State wide receiver, comes in at 6'3", 213 pounds. So he's a little bit of a bigger frame. The thing with Keon Coleman is he's not fast. He ran a 4.6, 140-yard dash. But what's crazy is last year, amongst all college football players, when timing how quickly you run your route, you break in and out of your route, and you get from the start of your route to the end of your route, Keon Coleman, amongst like every route that he ran, was like second in all of college football. So it's really weird to understand, why is this guy so slow when he's running straight at 4.61, but when he's running his routes, he's one of the fastest route runners that we've seen. So I think it's really one of those where football speed not translating into 40 time, right? We have such an affinity for 40-yard dashes. And in some players' cases who are straight line burners, we're just going to be deep threats. That matters. But in the sense of Keon Coleman, who makes 50-50 balls, like 90-10 balls, you can't throw a jump ball and expect him not to catch the football. That's how good he is. He's physical. He's tough at the catch point. And he brings down the football through contact. So you love those players because it reminds you of like Mike Evans or guys who are bigger that are going to go up and get the football that may not win with separation and speed, because his separation percentile was 11% in single coverage in college football, which is one of the worst. But I almost don't care about that because, again, look at how many jump balls get thrown his way. And it's not like you're watching Brian Thomas or Malik Neighbors where they're like 10 yards open, right? It's jump balls. The defender is right there and he's coming down with almost every single one of them. And again, despite not having insane athletic profile from a speed perspective, he's got everything else. So, pair him with the right, like, tandem of receiver where you have a fast receiver that can run routes in and out, and then you have him as, being kind of the Mike Evans-esque X receiver. I think he's going to be really, really good. Did you have a chance to watch Keon Coleman, or what were your thoughts to keep him out of your top 10? Nope, I can't hear you. You muted? You're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know what happened. Yeah. I don't know when it went unmuted. Anyways, yeah. So Keon Coleman, I mean, he's got all the traits to be like a great receiver. 6'3", 213 pounds. It's just so hard to put him in the top 10 with all these other receivers as well. I know he's like 6th on your list. Is that what you said?
7th, yeah.
7th on your list. For me, I don't have any reason to take him out of the top 10, just besides the fact that there's so many other guys. But anyone that gets him, I think there's definitely a chance that he could have like that home run threat, that catchability is definitely there, 50-50 ball chances. So yeah, no really good reason for me to take him out of the top 10 besides the fact that everybody else is good too.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Again, deep class. A Keon Coleman fit to me, that would be awesome, would be if he went to Buffalo. If he was opposite of Stephon Diggs with Josh Allen, now that Gabe Davis is gone, I think it would just be a match made in heaven. So that would be one that I would like to see. But that's the other guy I really wanted to talk about. I mean, I could sit here and gush over all these guys for hours and hours, to be honest, because again, it was so fun to watch the receivers work, because every single one I turned on, I was like, man, I really like this about this guy. And it was just hard to find faults. But let's not spend a lot of time on the guys not in the top 3. Real quickly, I want to run through the top 3. I'll let you take Rome Odunze, take the floor. What do you like about Rome? What do you dislike about Rome? And kind of how do you project him to be a pro?
Yeah, I think Rome Odunze is a pretty polished receiver, right? Like, I think we've talked about, if Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison are not in this draft class, he's probably wide receiver 1. Route running ability, he has it. The ability to create separation and then also get contested balls, he has it. So he's got all of those skills to be polished and start as a day 1 receiver. So if you are looking at the board and you're seeing Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors gone, and you still have a receiver that you have to get, you get Rome Odunze, you're going to be pretty ecstatic about his. Not only is he a great talent as far as the receiving goes, but he's also a good leader, right? Like, time and time again, you'll see like traits about how he's just a good leader, and all those traits that you want to see off the field that he has as well. So get away from the Stephon Diggs, get a guy like this that has talent and has the leadership skills. So I really like Rome Odunze in this year's draft.
Yeah, I think one of my biggest things that I liked about him was the fact that for the combine, he was one of the only big guys to take part in it. And he was like, why not? It's another chance for me to, prove that I belong here, or really, outprove what I think I can do. So I thought that was awesome when we felt like he was already part of the top 3 and he didn't really have anything more to prove. So it was cool to see him do that despite Neighbors and Marvin Harrison not doing it. You're right, man. He is so polished. You could have plopped him onto an NFL team the beginning of last season, and I think he would have been phenomenal, because he's got it all. There's nothing that he doesn't have. And like you said, if we're not allured to the Marvin Harrison Jr. name, I'm not taking anything away from him as a talent. He's incredible. But like, the name Marvin Harrison Jr. holds so much weight because of Marvin Harrison. And then Malik Neighbors, the way when you watch his tape, if you side by side it to Rome Odunze is like a gazelle, just smooth, sliding, getting everywhere. Malik Neighbors is like a fucking cannon getting shot out everywhere. You shoot him this way, he's a cannon. You shoot him this way, he's a cannon. It's coming off, like, when you watch YouTube, it like jumps at me when I'm watching Malik Neighbors, right? And so that's the only reason I think why it's so easy to gravitate towards somebody like that. But there's absolutely no flaw in Rome Odunze's game. He could be a guy that becomes like a Larry Fitzgerald, where, what real big trait did you have of Larry Fitzgerald that you were like, oh my God, he's the fastest, he's the best, like he's the biggest? No, he's just fucking really good. He's just really good at getting open, catches the ball, like does what he needs to. That to me is Rome Odunze. And I think, again, there's no reason to believe that he's not going to be successful in the NFL.
I agree.
All right, Shovit, let's do it. Let's talk about Marvin Harrison Jr. Actually, no. Yeah. I want to save Malik Nabers for last. Marvin Harrison Jr. number 2 for me, number 1 for you. He's number 1 for a lot of people. Although recently I have seen more people, siding on the Malik Nabers side just because of the tape, the pro day, the speed, everything. Just because the way it's hard to evaluate prospects because what are you evaluating? Are you evaluating what you're guessing this guy is going to be in 10 years? What are you evaluating what you think he can turn out to be, what he already is? If we're calculating what they already are, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is probably the best, right? But the reason why I take Nabers over Marvin Harrison Jr. is Nabers has like next level speed. He's got next level size. He's got next level everything. And my biggest thing with Malik Nabers that 6 months ago when I started watching this guy and I was like, this isn't real, is when this guy is breaking in and out of routes, Shovit, he gets faster and faster. And I rarely ever see players breaking into a route and accelerating, getting faster. You're losing your defender as you're breaking a route. That's how you get open. You get open by breaking into your route and you're losing the defender, but he doesn't lose the defender with, nuance or anything. The dude is just so goddamn quick when he accelerates that you have no shot. It's like he stops on a dime and he's accelerating one way. And I don't see that with Marvin Harrison Jr. at all. And so there's nothing to me that Marvin Harrison Jr. does that Malik Nabers cannot do. But I think that Malik Nabers can do certain things that I don't think Marvin Harrison Jr. can do simply because it's not in his athletic profile. So I'm only projecting them based on athletic profile. Obviously, I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to be a stud as well. He can run routes. He can catch the football. There's no weakness in his game. And I really mean that. And I don't think there's any weaknesses in Malik Nabers' games, even Rome Odunze's game. So when you're really evaluating 3 players that have 0 weaknesses, all you can do is stack their pros and then just, see which pro is a little bit better than the other pro. And that's where I lean Nabers just because the tape jumps off like the screen. It jumps off the screen. And I don't see that with very many people.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the way to think about Malik Nabers is Malik Nabers Justin Jefferson and then Marvin Harrison is Amon-Ra St. Brown? They're not now, but could become. Right? Malik Nabers has that ability to become a Justin Jefferson-esque, and then Marvin Harrison, he's not a guy that can beat you, beat the coverage every single time, but he's a very crafty route runner. His route running skills are, I think, second to none. I think the way he's able to create separation off of that and get the balls, contested balls, I think that he's going to be one of the best in the league when it comes to that, hopefully, right, as a prospect. But so I think that you can't go wrong with picking either one of those. You probably would want Malik Nabers because he's more flashy, but I think that you just want to get the job done. You want the best receiver that you can rely on. Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't shown any reason to not go out and get him. His speed may be the only issue, but in NFL, if you are able to change your speeds and have the defender when they're falling, you change speeds to accordingly, then you have separation right there. And Marvin Harrison can do that really well. So for that reason, I like him because he's you can't go wrong. It's like 1A and 1B, honestly.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's just fun to have the conversation. And I think because Marvin Harrison Jr. was such a consensus for a year and a half now, when he comes out, he's going to be the best receiver. And slowly but surely, these guys that are just as freaking good go under the radar because of his name. And so that's why I feel like Malik Nabers and Justin Jefferson to me is an interesting comparison because Malik Nabers, again, athletic profile is way better. Like JJ, the reason he was number 5 receiver is he wasn't the fastest, he wasn't the biggest, but what JJ was the best at is running routes. He creates separation. What you're talking about Marvin Harrison's going to do is literally why JJ is the best receiver in football. He's not the fastest, he's not the biggest, he's not the strongest, but when he runs routes, he's always open. He's never not open. And that's all you can ask for. You could be the fastest, biggest, strongest, but if you can't get open, you're nobody, right? You could be the slowest piece of shit, but if you know how to run a nuanced route and you can create separation because you're intelligent, that's more important. So I agree with you in that. I think Malik Nabers doesn't have to be as crafty as Marvin Harrison Jr. He wouldn't have to work on his route running as much as Marvin Harrison Jr. does because Malik Nabers can naturally do it because he's a physical freak. But the fact that Marvin Harrison Jr. put so much work and polish and time and effort into it, and he's become like an NFL vet right now if you threw him onto a football field, that's why, like you said, are you going to take the surefire hit that you know for damn sure is going to be an absolute stud? Or could Malik Nabers have a little bit of variance? Absolutely. He could be a boomer bust. I don't really see him being a bust, but I see more variance in him than Marvin Harrison Jr., who already comes into the NFL having like a top 10 wide receiver floor.
I think that having your father be Marvin Harrison has a lot to do with your IQ as well. So like
100%.
Marvin Harrison's Jr.'s IQ is probably like next level, right?
Oh yeah.
Breaking when he's like running those slant routes, knowing exactly where to go, even on press coverage versus zone coverage, right? Like little things like that, I think will show up a little bit more in the long run. I mean, this is all speculation, but I think that is also something that is a reason why people would draft Marvin Harrison Jr. first, because of this IQ that he has as opposed to Nabers.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I don't think you can go wrong. This receiving class is incredible. The top 3 receivers, I think, are home runs. I don't think you can miss. If you had Rome, Malik Nabers, Marvin Harrison Jr. last year, they would all be ahead of all the receivers. If you had them the year before with Garrett Wilson, Drake London, they'd be ahead of all those receivers. I'm trying to think of the last receiving class, maybe the Jamar Chase class, where Chase possibly would be the first receiver still, just because he was an incredible prospect. But outside of that, man, like these guys, I just don't see a world where you're getting one of these 3 guys and they're not going to be a good football player. I don't see it. I have an impossible time seeing it. They're so good.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I don't even think it's like a team situation where if they go on the bad team or anything like that, they have the skills, they have the ability. Like in terms of height, like Rome Odunze, Marvin Harrison, both 6'3", like they can go up and get. I just don't see it being an issue with quarterback with any of these 3 guys. Where as some of the other guys, maybe I would say like someone like Ladd McConkey, Roman Wilson, like it's dependent on quarterback a little bit more there than these 3 guys. They separate themselves in that sense, I think.
Yeah, they would elevate the quarterback they're playing with for damn sure.
Right.
Yeah, dude. So those are the wide receivers. Again, such a deep class. If you're a team that's in the need for a receiver, you're striking gold. We're going to look back on this wide receiver class and be like, holy crap, we have 15 guys, maybe 20 guys that are like contributors in the NFL, ranging from all pro Marvin Harrison Jr. to like, special teams contributor, but you are going to have guys, there's going to be probably 20 guys. So a lot of names to look out for. I don't know if we really go ahead.
No, I was going to say, like, given how many receivers there are, like teams like the Kansas City Chiefs, teams like the Buffalo Bills, who can get Troy Franklin, can get Xavier Legette, can get Ricky Pearsall, like later in the rounds, man, that is a scary thought to think about.
I'm just scared about the fact that the Bears are going to get Caleb Williams, and then with 9, they're going to if Rome, Malik, or Marvin Harrison falls to 9, and you get Caleb Williams and one of those guys in your draft, like GG's, man. I really don't know if you're the opposing defenses how like good luck. So that's a terrifying thought for me, but I just don't see a world where the Vikings are in the wide receiver market, despite maybe like late for a wide receiver 3. I would love to get one of these top 10 guys, even the number 10 guy, if we can get him in day 3. But the Steelers, I think, are in a much more wide receiver market. So I wouldn't be surprised if one of these guys is, donning the black and gold.
I think day 2 more than day 1. Day 1 is probably going to be offensive lineman. We got to get rid of Dan Moore Jr. But day 2, if any of these guys are available, that would be amazing. Or if we trade up and Adonai Mitchell is still there, day 2, first pick.
Yeah, dude. Very much so. I can't wait. Less than a month away from the draft. So much hype. It just continues to build day in and day out. We may talk about tight ends next week. I haven't really decided how I feel about that besides Brock Bowers. There's some other names, but I just don't know if it really warrants an entire episode. But we have an entire week to figure out what we want to talk about next week. But as always, we will be back next week. I am Sweetcard. That is Shovit. We are the only playbook. Thank you guys so much for watching on YouTube. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. It helps spread the word. If you're listening to us on Spotify, Apple, anywhere you can get your podcasts, actually. Follow us on our socials, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, at The Only Playbook. Again, thank you guys so much. Have a fantastic long weekend.